Hello, I'm Lena. Welcome to my safe space where I openly talk about my childhood traumas and how they affected my mental health. If you are interested in my whole story, you can watch my first video by following a link in this corner. In today's deep dive, I want to talk about my strengths. Some people will say, "Look at you, you are so strong. Have you not had all these traumas, you wouldn't be where you are now." First of all, what do you mean when you say, "I wouldn't be where I am now"? Because where am I exactly? I'm just a woman, of which there are millions. I don't have a career, I don't have an education, I don't have kids. I didn't create anything that made me famous or rich. I had my trauma building obstacles at every turn due to hypervigilance, anxiety, anger issues, self-sabotage, etc. I have nothing to show to prove that trauma made me successful because I'm not successful. So where am I exactly that I should be proud of? And as for me being strong due to my trauma, are you serious? I'm strong despite my trauma. Trauma didn't make me stronger. Had it not been for my trauma, I would potentially achieve a lot more than I have. Trauma absolutely makes you weaker. It is a person's resilience and already existing inner strength that helps them keep moving forward despite having psychological traumas. The long-term effects of trauma make it harder for anyone to keep motivated, and any strength they display often comes from their own efforts to cope, not from the trauma itself. Studies consistently show that trauma is linked to increased risk of depression, anxiety, PTSD, and chronic stress disorders. Neurologically, trauma can dysregulate the stress response, leading to issues such as hypervigilance, emotional dysregulation, and even cognitive decline. While some people report positive changes after trauma, it's often called post-traumatic growth, or PTG. Research suggests that PTG is not a direct result of trauma, but rather a byproduct of active coping strategies. People who grow from adversity tend to have pre-existing resilience factors like strong social support, emotional regulation skills, and problem-solving abilities. One study found that moderate adversity was associated with resilience, but severe trauma was correlated with worse mental health outcomes. Their findings support the idea that too much trauma does not build strength, but instead overwhelms coping mechanisms. Now, what is this inner strength? Where does it come from? As it turns out, it arises from a combination of neurological, genetic, psychological, and environmental factors. The inner strength I'm referring to is also known as psychological resilience in scientific terms. Our brain plays a huge role in resilience. Resilient people have a brain structure that helps regulate stress and emotional responses effectively. Prefrontal cortex, PFC, controls emotional regulation and rational thinking. A well-developed PFC helps suppress fear responses from the amygdala, allowing individuals to stay calm under stress. Amygdala is our fear processing center. Overactivity in this region is linked to PTSD and anxiety. Resilient people show better amygdala regulation, often due to PFC control. Trauma can also shrink our hippocampus, which is involved in memory and stress regulation. Our resilience is linked to its ability to recover and keep stress in check. Other factors that help us be more resilient are genetic and epigenetic factors. We inherit genes that help shape how our bodies and brains work, and that play roles in how we react to stress. Some people naturally have versions of these genes that make their brains better at managing stress. In other words, your genetic makeup can give you a head start in handling tough situations. We also have a mechanism called DNA methylation, where small chemical groups attach to your DNA and can reduce or silence the expression of specific genes. Stressful experiences, particularly early in life, can lead to such modifications. For example, severe or chronic stress might dampen the expression of genes that help regulate our stress response. The good news is that epigenetic changes aren't fixed forever. Positive experience, such as supportive relationships, therapy, or a nurturing environment, can alter these chemical markers in ways that improve how our genes function in stressful situations. In effect, while our genetic blueprint sets the stage, our life experiences can rewrite the script to help build resilience. There are also psychological and behavioral factors. People are able to develop their inner strengths through cognitive reframing, emotional control, and changing their mindset. This is exactly what I did, and if you want to know more about how I did it, you can watch my 5-step system for healing from childhood traumas video. Resilient people have cognitive flexibility, the ability to reframe negative experiences positively. They're just better at finding meaning in hardship. Emotional regulation can also help. Controlling impulses and emotions reduces stress. Mindfulness and therapy can strengthen this ability. People with internal locus of control, or those who believe that they control their own fate, are more resilient than those with an external locus of control, who believe that life just happens to them. Finally, there are environmental and social factors. Inner strength isn't just internal, it's also shaped by relationships, upbringing, and past experiences. Secure attachments to caregivers fosters resilience, while neglect or abuse increases vulnerability. Strong relationships with friends, family, and/or mentors act as stress buffers, improving mental health and resilience. Small challenges in life build coping skills, while overwhelming trauma often weakens resilience. In conclusion, some people are naturally more resilient, but inner strength can be developed through therapy, mindfulness, problem-solving skills, and strong social connections. I think my friendships played a big role in my relative resilience. I always had a large friend circle, and all my friends were and still are hugely supportive of me. I also had a couple of family members who provided guidance. My grandmother's sister and her husband didn't have their own kids, and therefore they sort of took me under their wing in terms of parenting. It's not like they actively told me what to do and how to act, but they led by example. Even though they weren't perfect, and at a time I didn't understand how valuable they were in my life, I understand it now. My grandparents always talked trash about them, always judged them for different things, but in reality, they just lived a happy life that was unconventional to most. Child-free by choice in the Soviet Union? Scandalous. Going on vacation every year, constantly renovating their apartment, not wearing old clothes instead of saving every penny for the sake of owning money? Unheard of. My great aunt would inadvertently teach me to be a feminist. She always said to me, "You are a woman. You're wiser than him by default," when I had another fight with my dad. It was the complete opposite of what he tried to teach me, and for some reason I believed her instead. This gave me inner strength because it meant I wasn't actually inferior to my dad. She and her husband taught me to live in the present. They saved money too, but not like my grandparents and my dad. They saved money to spend it on experiences. They were always out of town, either on the beach in summertime or in the mountains in winter. And my grandparents would say, "They just can't settle down at last. They're so irresponsible." And now I know that they did the most responsible thing they could do. They enjoyed their life. It's them and my friends who were my support system and my role models, and not my family. Perhaps I wouldn't be able to overcome my traumas had it not been for them. Later in life, when I started living in the States and had no one, I was struggling to cope. Eventually, I met my now husband, who became my strongest support system I ever had. I also made friendships over the years, and I had my dog for the majority of my adult life. I'm not lonely anymore, and thankfully I wasn't lonely for long. I don't know about my brain's abilities. I can only guess what exactly I can attribute to my genetics, but I'm sure I have what it takes to cope with traumas better than some people. I'm saying this because of my observations over the years and how certain events affected me. I usually have a delayed response to traumas, but I'm capable of processing my feelings and link them with one another, which in turn helps me address my traumas, find coping mechanisms, and actually experience them for self-healing. To finalize, everything I've learned about my resilience or my so-called strength taught me exactly what the studies have shown over and over again. It's not that I'm strong because of my trauma. I'm strong despite of it. That is all I have for today's deep dive. I hope you found this video helpful or entertaining. If so, there is another one you might be interested in watching right here. I post every Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching. Bye.